Most people think financial success is all about working harder, chasing the next big deal, or finding that secret investment. But here's the truth. If your money isn't aligned with God's principles, you're building a mansion on sand. For decades, I made choices that looked smart on paper, but left me empty inside in broken ways no bank statement could measure. The Bible isn't silent about wealth. It's a roadmap for building it without losing your soul. Yet too many believers separate faith from finances, as if God cares about one, but not the other. That mindset has cost kingdom entrepreneurs not just opportunities, but generations of blessings that were meant to be theirs. What I'm about to share aren't just theories. They're 10 biblical money lessons I wish I had learned 40 years ago. Lessons that could have saved me from rushing debt, opened doors in business I didn't even know existed, and multiplied my resources in ways that were unexpected. Some of these truths will challenge what you've been taught. Others will confirm what you've always felt in your spirit but didn't know. Either way, by the end of this, you'll see that building wealth without faith isn't just possible. It's the only way to pursue it. So, are you ready to break free from financial patterns, pick your stuff, and step into a blueprint designed by the Creator himself? Let's dive into the first lesson. Start with God's blueprint for wealth. Before anyone can build lasting wealth, they must first understand the blueprint that God already laid out. In Scripture, prosperity is never just about accumulation. It's about alignment with His will. Proverbs 3:9-10 makes it clear. Honor the Lord with your wealth, then your barns will be filled. That's not just poetry, it's a financial principle. Without God as the architect, you risk building something impressive that collapses under the first storm. God's blueprint always begins with purpose before profit. The world says make money first, then figure out your purpose later. But that's backward. In the kingdom, money is a servant, not a master. You start by asking, Lord, what is the work you called me to do? The financial structure you build will be stronger. Nehemiah rebuilt the city wall because he followed God's plan first. The resources came afterward. Think of it like constructing a skyscraper. You wouldn't start pouring concrete without a detailed plan. The Bible provides that, covering generosity, integrity, stewardship, and multiplication. For example, in Matthew 25, the servants who followed the master's instructions saw their talents multiply. Those who acted outside of the plan lost everything. The same applies in business. Ignore the divine blueprint and you invite instability. Applying this in practical terms means setting financial goals that are value-driven, not greed-driven. That could look like building a business that solves a real problem, supports families, and creates jobs, while honoring biblical ethics. In the American market, businesses with strong moral foundations often build more loyal customer bases. Your why will influence how you handle every dollar and deal. This first lesson is foundational because it shapes every decision you make with money. Without God's blueprint, even good intentions can drift into dangerous waters. But when you anchor your strategy to His principles, you'll find that provision, opportunities, and the right partnerships align with your path. And that alignment will lead directly into the next lesson, where stewardship becomes the key to sustaining what you've built. Steward money like a faithful servant. In the kingdom of God, wealth isn't owned, it's entrusted. Psalm 24:1 reminds us, the earth is the Lord's, and everything in it. That means every dollar in your account is on loan from the ultimate owner. The faithful servant in Matthew 25 didn't just protect his master's money, he multiplied it. True stewardship is about using resources wisely, growing them, and directing them toward God's purposes. Stewardship begins with knowing where every cent goes. Too many people pray for God to bless their finances while living with no plan. The kingdom steward budgets, invests, and spends with intention. That could mean tracking business expenses weekly or setting aside a percentage of every profit. In the American market, disciplined financial tracking is the difference between growth and bankruptcy. Faithful stewardship also means resisting waste. In John 6, after feeding the 5,000, Jesus told the disciples to gather the leftovers so that nothing may be lost. That wasn't just about bread. It was a principle of resource management. Whether in business or personal life, avoiding unnecessary losses is as important as making new profits. You honor God when you treat every resource as valuable. Practical application: automate savings, invest in appreciating assets, and support projects that align with biblical values. For example, instead of chasing risky get-rich-quick schemes, consider stable dividend-paying stocks, real estate, or funding a local business that meets a real need. This approach not only grows your money but multiplies your impact in the community. When you live as a faithful steward, your finances stop being a source of anxiety and start becoming a tool for influence. God promotes those who handle little with care to manage much more. Luke 16:10. And as we move forward, we'll see how stewardship naturally leads to multiplication. Because a good servant doesn't just protect wealth, they grow. Multiply your talents without fear. Fear has probably buried more potential than failure ever has. In Matthew 25, the servant who hid his talent in the ground didn't lose it because of bad investments. He lost it because of fear. God never calls us to protect his resources by hiding them. Instead, he calls us to take spirit-led risks that can expand his kingdom. Playing it safe might keep you comfortable, but it will never make money grow. Multiplication requires faith and action working together. James 2:17 tells us that faith without works is dead. And in business terms, that means an unused resource is a wasted one. Maybe you have capital sitting idle, or a business idea gathering dust in your journal, just like the first servants in Jesus' parable. You need to put those resources into motion, trusting that God blesses faithful initiative. In practical terms, this might look like starting a side business that aligns with your skills, or investing in a profitable venture that supports your values. It could also mean upgrading your current business model to serve more people. In the American market, opportunities to multiply can be found in sectors like technology, sustainable energy, or ethical real estate, fields where kingdom-minded entrepreneurs can thrive. Overcoming fear isn't about ignoring risk. It's about managing it with wisdom. Proverbs 15:22 reminds us, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. Before launching that new investment or product, seek out mentors, industry experts, and seasoned leaders who can help you navigate the journey. God's multiplication plan often involves collaboration. When you commit to multiplying what God has placed in your hands, you position yourself for exponential growth. Fear may still knock on your door, but you dictate your actions, and that courage will be critical in the next lesson. Because multiplication means living the foundation of your business isn't built on righteousness. Build business on righteous foundations. A business built on shady practices might grow quickly, but it will crumble just as fast. Proverbs 10:9 says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." In God's economy, character is capital. That means every contract, partnership, and deal must align with biblical values. If you want your money to last and your influence to grow, righteous foundations begin with honesty and fairness. In the Old Testament, God condemned dishonest scales because they cheated people. Proverbs 11:1. In today's marketplace, that principle applies to pricing, advertising, and customer treatment. If your business misleads clients, exploits workers, or compromises on quality, it's not built for kingdom longevity, no matter how much profit it makes in the short term. Practical application. Audit your business practices. Ask yourself, would I be proud to present this before God? This could mean restructuring your supply chain to avoid unethical labor, or ensuring your marketing speaks truthfully. In the American business scene, companies with transparent practices often enjoy stronger brand loyalty and long-term profitability. Righteousness also impacts how you treat your team. Colossians 4:1 instructs, "Masters, provide your slaves with what is right and fair, because you know that you also have a master in heaven." Today, that translates into paying fair wages, offering growth opportunities, and creating a workplace culture that reflects Christ. Your team will mirror the values you set at the top. When your business stands on righteousness, you gain more than financial returns. You gain God's favor and the trust of people. That trust becomes a magnet for opportunities, partnerships, and clients you could never secure through marketing alone. And as we'll see in the next lesson, those blessings are multiplied when generosity becomes your first move, not your last. Give first and watch provision follow. In God's economy, giving isn't an afterthought, it's the starting point. Proverbs 11:25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This is completely opposite to the world's approach, where people make money first and then decide if they can give. In Scripture, the blessing often comes after the seed is planted, not before. Giving first demonstrates trust in God's provision. Malachi 3:10 records God's challenge. "Test me in this, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven." That's not just about tithing to your local church. It can mean funding kingdom projects, helping a struggling family, or supporting a mission aligned with your calling. The act of giving places your finances under divine multiplication. From a business perspective, generosity builds goodwill that money alone can't buy. Imagine a business that sponsors community events, provides free resources to those in need, or mentors young entrepreneurs. American market, businesses known for generosity often attract loyal customers who share their values, which in turn fuels growth. Giving first also protects you from greed. Luke 12:15. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. When you set generosity as a non-negotiable, you guard your heart against making money your master. You'll see every transaction not as a mere exchange, but as an opportunity to advance God's kingdom. When you choose to give before you receive, you activate a principle that transcends market trends and economic cycles. Your finances will no longer be limited by your own earning power, but will flow in sync with God's endless resources. And that's crucial, because in the next lesson we'll address the biggest financial chain the enemy uses to hold believers back: debt that enslaves. Avoid debt that enslaves. The Bible doesn't shy away from warning about debt. Proverbs 22:7 states plainly, the borrower is slave to the lender. While some types of debt can be leveraged strategically in business, many believers end up trapped by loans, credit cards, and financial commitments that choke their ability to give, invest, and respond to God's call. Freedom in finances often begins with breaking free from toxic debt. Not all debt is created equal. There's a difference between borrowing to buy an appreciating asset, like a commercial property that generates steady income, and swiping a credit card for unnecessary consumption. In the American market, millions sink under high-interest debt not because they lack income, but because they lack a plan. Kingdom stewardship demands discernment before signing any financial agreement. Practical application starts with listing every debt you have, ranking them by interest rate, and attacking the most costly ones first. This is the debt snowball or debt avalanche approach, methods that work in both personal and business finance. Imagine how much more money you could put toward investments or kingdom work if you weren't sending thousands to lenders every year. Biblical wisdom also reminds us to seek contentment. Hebrews 13:5 urges, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Many fall into debt because they try to maintain an image or lifestyle God never called them to. The enemy uses that trap to limit our mobility and keep us from taking faith-driven opportunities. When you avoid the kind of debt that enslaves, you not only protect your financial health, but also your spiritual freedom. You become nimble, ready to act when God opens a door. And that agility is essential for the next lesson, where we'll talk about channeling your resources into wise, intentional investments instead of impulsive ones. Invest with wisdom, not impulse. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. In the world of money, haste often shows up as impulsive investments, chasing the latest trend, buying into hype without research, or trusting unverified opportunities. In God's kingdom, investment is a deliberate, prayerful act rooted in discernment. Every dollar should be sown into soil that can bear. Wise investing starts with understanding the seasons. Ecclesiastes 3 reminds us there is a time to plant and a time to harvest. This principle applies to markets as well. Just because a sector is booming doesn't mean it's your season to enter. In the American market, believers have prospered by focusing on steady, value-driven sectors, like real estate, healthcare, or biblically screened index funds, rather than gambling on volatile trends. Impulse often comes from emotion, fear of missing out, or greed. Both cloud judgment. That's why Proverbs 15:22 tells us to seek many advisors before making a move. For a business owner, that might mean consulting with a financial advisor who understands your kingdom values, or running the decision by a mentor who's walked the path before. Practical application could look like setting a clear investment plan for the year with defined risk limits, profit goals, and review checkpoints. This removes emotion from the equation and keeps you aligned with your long-term vision. It also ensures that your business or personal portfolio is diversified, which reduces risk while still allowing for growth. When you invest with wisdom, you create streams of provision that can sustain you through economic downturns. You also position yourself to take part in the next level of financial growth we'll explore, because wise investors don't just plant in one field, they understand the power of diversifying and Solomon. Diversify like Solomon. King Solomon wasn't just the wisest man in history, he was also one of the wealthiest, and his prosperity wasn't tied to a single stream of income. Ecclesiastes 11. 2 advises, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Solomon understood the power of diversification long before modern portfolio theory existed. In today's economy, that same principle can shield your money from unnecessary risk. Diversification is more than spreading investments randomly. It's about strategically positioning your resources across sectors, assets, and even nations. Solomon's wealth came from trade routes, agriculture, gold mines, livestock, and alliances. In the American market, a kingdom-minded approach might mean balancing real estate, dividend-paying stocks, small business equity, and even global investments that align with biblical values. From a business perspective, this also means creating multiple streams of income within your expertise. A consultant could add online courses, group coaching, and speaking engagements. A retailer might expand into e-commerce, wholesale, and branded merchandise. This way, if one revenue source slows, others keep the financial engine running. Biblically, diversification also reflects this stewardship. Just as the parable of the talents shows servants managing different amounts and producing returns, you're called to manage all opportunities God entrusts to you. Placing all your resources in one basket is a form of presumption. Assuming the future will look exactly like today. When you diversify like Solomon, you're not being fearful. You're being faithful to guard what God has given you. And with those multiple streams secured, you can approach your work with diligence and peace, knowing that both your labor and your rest are part of God's provision plan. That brings us to the next lesson: how to work diligently while resting in His perfect timing. Work diligently, rest in God's timing. Proverbs 12:24 tells us, "Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor." Hard work is a biblical value, but in the kingdom, diligence is always balanced with trust in God's timing. Many believers burn out trying to force results instead of allowing God to open the right doors at the right moment. True success in business is a partnership between your effort and His orchestration. Working diligently means showing up consistently, even in seasons when progress feels slow, like the farmer in James 5. 7 who waits for the rains. You prepare the soil, plant the seed, and tend the field, trusting that God will bring the harvest in its season. In the American market, that might mean committing to a disciplined daily routine in your business, even when sales are low and the economy is uncertain. Rest, however, is equally essential. Exodus 20 commands a Sabbath, not as a suggestion, but as a divine rhythm. Rest renews your strength, restores creativity, and reminds you that vision comes from God, not from endless hustle. Entrepreneurs who schedule rest often find themselves making better decisions and spotting opportunities that can rest and exhaustion. Practical application could be structuring your week with dedicated work blocks and intentional downtime. That might mean turning off devices one evening a week, taking a quarterly prayer retreat, or spending time with family without checking emails. This not only benefits your health, but keeps your priorities aligned with your calling. When you work with diligence and rest with faith, you step into a sustainable flow that produces long-term fruit. And that's critical for the final lesson, because all your labor, investments, and discipline should point toward one ultimate goal: leaving a lasting legacy, not just a pile of riches. Leave a legacy, not just riches. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." Notice, it's not just about leaving money, but creating a legacy that shapes generations. Riches alone can vanish in a few years, but a legacy rooted in kingdom values can influence lives long after you're gone. The goal isn't simply to make money, it's to pass on wisdom, faith, and resources that empower others to keep building. Legacy building starts with intentional planning. That could mean setting up trusts, creating a will, or establishing a foundation that funds kingdom causes. In the American market, many successful Christian entrepreneurs use estate planning not just to transfer wealth, but to ensure their businesses and assets continue serving God's purposes for decades to come. A true legacy also involves mentoring the next generation, like Paul pouring into Timothy. You can invest time in teaching your children, proteges, or team members the principles that shaped your life. Money without guidance can destroy. Money with discipleship can multiply far beyond your lifetime. It also means aligning your business with causes that matter. Whether it's funding schools, supporting missions, or creating job opportunities in underprivileged communities, these acts become part of your legacy. People will remember not just what you built, but who you lifted along the way. When you live with legacy in mind, every financial decision gains eternal weight. Your investments, your business, your giving, all of it becomes part of a story that outlives you. And in the kingdom, that's the true measure of wealth. Not just what you earn, but what you leave behind to keep advancing God's work. If these 10 lessons have shown you anything, it's that God's way of handling money is radically different from the world's. He's not against wealth. He's against wealth without wisdom, purpose, and kingdom alignment. Every principle you've just heard is a building block, and when you put them together, they form a structure that no economic storm can destroy. The question is, what will you do with what you've learned today? Will you keep chasing temporary gains? Or will you start building a legacy that outlives you? Will you let fear dictate your business decisions? Or will you trust God enough to step into opportunities He's been placing in front of you for years? Write in the comments. Trust God's timing for my success and watch how this powerful declaration begins to shift the course of your business and your finances for this day. The truth is, nothing changes until you take the first step. So start small, stay consistent, and keep your eyes fixed on the one who gave you every resource. Your financial breakthrough isn't waiting on the market, it's waiting on your obedience. If this message has spoken to you, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another teaching that can transform your life, your business, and your future.